If you don't want me, then don't talk to me. Go ahead and free yourself. And yes, shout out to Fantasia for that song, Free Yourself. However, I think sometimes it's best for us not to tell the other person to free themselves, but for us to take the actual advice. Let's get started tonight on Chelsea's Live Line. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It's so good to see y'all tonight. Thank you to those who are new to the channel. I appreciate y'all for officially joining the Chelsea's Live Line fam. And for those who've been A1 since day one, I thank you for continuing on this ride with me, my journey as I've been learning these YouTube streets and trying to do my best to provide y'all with quality content. So if you've been enjoying what you've been seeing this year so far, make sure you continue to hit that like button, share with somebody who can benefit from it, or subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. All right, so let's get into tonight's episode called Today's Slave Mentality. Today's Slave Mentality. Because at one point in time, we had ancestors, possibly, that were slaves, right? Those ancestors went through it in any way possible. Physically, mentally, emotionally, all of that. They were tested. But now that our ancestors are not slaves, now that we're not slaves because our ancestors were slaves, what are we going to do about that? I know a lot of us want to say, let's get these reparations, let's get what we deserve because our ancestors were slaves. Remember, when our ancestors were slaves, they were physically restrained, but mentally free. They were physically strained, but mentally free at that point in time. But today, we are living the reverse of that. And I'm going to get into that in just a bit. But one of the first questions I want to ask y'all, as you know that 2022 is coming to an end, I want to ask y'all one question. Who did y'all wrong in 2022? And while I am thinking as well about somebody who's done me wrong, I know you're probably thinking the same. Who did you wrong in 2022? Because sometimes we have the tendency to dwell on who did us wrong in 2022. And not just that, every year before then. Oh, I remember when they backstabbed me back in 1986 or 1955. Y'all remember the day, the time, the place, okay, and everybody that was there, the plot and all. And sometimes holding on to certain things are the reason that we can't move forward to something that's greater. That's truly the case. And what I want to do is just talk about the mindset of today's people where we're saying, I'll forgive you, but I won't forget. But I don't think God wants us to be like that. So let me get started with the word of the day, which is coming from Isaiah 43, 18 through 19. Forget the former things. Do not dwell on the past. See, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs up. Do you not perceive it? He said, forget the former things. Forget what used to happen. Forget how they used to treat you because I'm doing a new thing. In other words, if you forget that, I'm going to bless you with something that won't even make you remember that you were going through those problems. You were having headaches. You were having depression, anything that you were going through at that time because he has something greater for you. But you got to believe that. Until you believe that, you're going to keep going through the same mess with different people, hoping for a better outcome. And that's called insanity, to say the least. It's called insanity. So that's why I wanted to get started with the word of the day first. And I want you to stop. Like, this is the most time today. This is the last day. It's December 28th. But this is the last day I want you to focus on the people who have messed you up, who've messed your mindset up, who've messed your spirit up. As soon as you hear their name, you're feeling some type of way, that's how you know that you got to let them go. Leave them in 2022 because we only got a few more days left. And I want you to create a game plan that will allow you to say, I'm not going to let them ruin my 2023. Like, you had 2022, but I'm done with you. And just be like that. Be like that when it comes to whoever it may be, your coworkers, your exes, whoever it may be that is bothering you to the point where you can't be yourself. It's time to let it go because you're holding on to your own chains. Back when our ancestors were slaves, they were being physically restrained, but you're being mentally restrained. Take the chains off. Take the chains off because that's blocking your blessings. And you have to realize that this is teaching you a lesson to not have to hold on to something that you know isn't worth your time. It's teaching you a lesson to let you know that all that time you're investing into that negativity could be providing you with something fruitful if you just take that off of your thinking plate. All right. Let me get into these comments real quick, y'all. Shout out to Aunt Tracy for being in the chat. I appreciate your consistency. Thank you so much. Shout out to my sis Mona for being here. Happy belated birthday to her. Shout out to Mona. And make sure you check out her channel that she can place in the chat. So she has a new upcoming channel. She just got started. She has great content already on the channel. Just getting started with her little live streams and whatnot. So make sure y'all check out Mona. And shout out to my brother Chavis as well for being here. Thank you so much. And shout out to Hippolyta as well. Thank you, sis, for being here. All right, let's get back into it. So again, Isaiah 43:18 told you, forget the former things because it doesn't provide you with the benefit that you need to be as fruitful as God wants you to be with your purpose, because we all have a purpose, but we won't purposely fulfill it being consistent. Y'all hear a lot of times when people say, be consistent, be consistent. Let me tell you, that's the wrong statement to live by, because you could be consistently wrong. Just because you're consistent doesn't mean you're consistently doing the right thing. That's what we got to realize, that we have to adjust the mindset and say, I'm doing this every day, but I'm not seeing the outcome. Is it the right thing that you're doing? Is this the purpose that God has given you? All those questions have to be answered for a solution to be properly given by God himself. And what I want to tell you is that people have done you wrong. I know they have. They don't stab you in your face, right? Or stab you in your back. Wherever they don't stab you at, right? Backstabbers. They smiling in your face all the time. They want to take your place. Backstabbers. Whatever they've done to you, don't let that hold on to you, because I know people who have said, my family has treated me wrong. So as a result, I'm not producing any fruit. I'm not going to do what I can to live a fruitful life. I'm just going to live in that victim mindset. And it's better to be a victor than it is to be a victim. Here's my victim card. I want to redeem that, because that's all I'm living on. I don't know nothing else but being a victim to my circumstances. But if we're a victim to our circumstances, that means that we've died a long time ago and we just waiting for somebody else to write our obituary. That's the worst thing in the world. To live a life that you consider to be fruitful, but then when you see your obituary that you won't be able to see, but if you can see your obituary and it's nothing fruitful in there, like they have to make up stuff about you because you have not lived. You just existed. I've talked about that before. It's a difference between existing. It's a difference between living. Pick your choice, but you have that choice because you got to take the chains off yourself. Stop blaming the white man. Especially if you're a black person, stop blaming the white man, talking about what they used to do to us. They enslaved us. They held us captive. They held us in bondage and whatnot, because they're not doing that as much now as they were back then. So our great grandparents and everybody, they were privileged. And now that we have, they weren't privileged. Excuse me. The great grandparents were not privileged, but they used what they had to get what they wanted, right? Let me think back to the fact that they didn't have access to getting married. They were not able to get married, but they tried to anyway. And they were successful in doing that by sneaking behind the scenes and doing that. For example, like I said, marriage was something that they couldn't do, but they found a way to do it. Now we have access to marriage, but are we trying to do it? No, we're not. For example, think about Jane Pittman, right? Jane Pittman, the slave, Cicely Tyson had played her in the movie, right? Cicely Tyson had played Jane Pittman. In this particular movie, Jane Pittman was treated wrong because of the color of her skin. At the end of the movie, she went up to a water fountain and was privileged. She felt privileged to be able to drink from that water fountain that everybody else drank from. Now we got access to capital that the slaves didn't have. We have access to all these resources, but we're too privileged where we don't feel like we shouldn't have to work for it because we're giving it to us. We wonder why people from other ethnicities, other countries come in to America and do better than we can because they take advantage of the resources they've been given, okay? But we don't do that. We sitting back and just hoping that somebody can do the work for us and playing this victim card until we have nothing else to say but the same old thing on a different day. Forget what everybody else talk about. We have to change our mindset. Our mindset needs to be reset, especially since 2023 is coming. We got these resolutions and whatnot. I need to scratch that out, make some goals. And we need to know that we need to stick to a plan. All right. But let me just tell you, they did Jesus wrong too. They may have done you wrong, but they did Jesus wrong. They did Joseph wrong in the Bible. And I'm going to be talking about that all because they persevered, right? Literally. This is about Joseph. Joseph was prisoner to prince, okay? Seriously, of Egypt. Just because he persevered, just because God was with him all along. And that's why I'm going to get into Romans 8:28, which says the following. It says, and we know that in all things, God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose. All things work together. Okay, so you may have had some negatives. Then you got a lot more positives. But because you're dwelling on those negatives, you don't see the good that God has done by outweighing those negatives with those positives. That's what we got to realize, is that we may have 50 negative things that happen to us this year. But if we got 51 positive things that happened to us that year, this means that we still won. Because negatives get canceled out by positives, y'all. It's simple math. And we need to go back to the basics to understand the blessings that we receive from God. I'm just going to say it like that. I'm just going to keep it real. And we are slaves. Everybody is a slave to somebody. But we can't have two masters. We can't have multiple masters. We only can have one. But you got to get rid of those other masters that are holding you as that slave you don't deserve to be like. We are mentally locked up, y'all. We can't think no more. We can't think no more. We can't talk about critical subjects that matter in our communities, all because we're focused on the bare surface. We're real surface level with our mindsets today. But the slaves, they thought deep. Okay, let's think about Harriet Tubman. Okay, shout out to Harriet Tubman. But think about this. As soon as she was free, she did not dwell on the fact that they treated her wrong. She appreciated the little time she had left to be free. But just imagine if she dwelled on everything. She wouldn't have been able to enjoy the rest of her life that she had, all because of the fact that they treated her wrong for all those years. Get out that mentality. Like somebody, you have gone through a lot. Yes, you have. I've gone through a lot as well. But I'm thankful that I can say I have gone through a lot, right? Instead of saying I am going through a lot. Because going through it allowed me to grow through it. Okay, you cannot grow unless you go through it, but you're not going through it alone. That's what you got to realize. And see, we so quick to say this. All my life I had to fight. All my life I had to fight. But what happens? Like, you hear the phrase, I had to fight, past tense. Now that you have fought, what are you going to talk about next? Because I'm tired of hearing you saying that you had to fight, but the fighting is over. So what are you doing right now to appreciate the moments in which you have to fight no longer? Just wondering. And shout out to Jarena. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right, but thank you so much for being here. I truly appreciate that. Shout out to my brother Chav. I already said shout out to my brother Chav. Shout out to my brother Paris. He said some people, the hardest thing is just to live. So sad. Yes, it's really sad, y'all. But I'm thankful for all of y'all being here. Yes. Okay, let me continue this conversation to say the least. Paris is saying some of our people will not make it. Some of us like being a slave. Pray for them. Yes, that's what I'm saying. Like we need to pray for everybody who is still in that slave mentality, still waiting on those reparations to come, because they may not. What are you going to do? You will hold your life up until they come and say, okay, I'll live one day. As soon as I get these reparations, I'll live. If you never get them, what's your backup plan? Just saying. What's your backup plan? All right, let's continue this conversation some more. What you need, like this is the mentality of today. What you need is usually what you don't want. And what you want is usually what you don't need. That's what it is. Because I think we're too privileged. I think the fact, like we have marriage. We're allowed to be married now. We're allowed to have all these resources. But we want to still play the victim card and say we're not blessed with these opportunities. Yes, we are blessed. We are further along than our ancestors were. Okay? But let's talk about the story of Joseph. That's really what God put on my heart for this episode, is to talk about the story of Joseph and really break that down to tell us how blessed we are and how we can start from level 0 but be leveled up real quick, all because God has a plan for our lives, all because he sees the end goal before we start with the first step. Okay, that's the story of Joseph, and I'm gonna get started with that. Yes, we are so privileged. Yes, exactly. Amen. Mona said we have more info, resources, and opportunities and still won't take advantage of these. And some of these resources could be free, but we just don't want to take the time. We don't want to take the time out to do it. When can we switch our mindsets to realize that everything's in front of us? But until we take the time to do it, we will never be successful, and we'll just be talking and not doing. Let me get into the story of Joseph. So it starts in Genesis chapter 37. And let me just get started with this first part, talking about Joseph had dreams. Do y'all remember that Joseph had dreams? If you don't, I'm going to go over them anyway. Joseph had dreams that he would be the ruler at some point in time. He told his brothers these dreams in hopes that they would be supportive and help him to achieve these dreams. But they were the total opposite. They felt envious of him because he had dreams, and they called him, oh, here comes a little dreamer, because he had a bigger vision than they had. He saw what God had in store for him, but they didn't see. As a result, his father, their father, Jacob, Israel, took note that the fact that the brothers were jealous and that the fact that Joseph had these dreams that he will rule one day. He took note of that. Joseph had dreams, and you have dreams too. I have dreams as well. Haven't y'all heard of that saying that says, do not tell somebody your dreams because they'll basically kill them? Y'all heard something along those lines before, where you be careful. Be careful who you tell your dreams to. In other words, keep it a secret. Keep it a secret. But I think that's the problem in our community, is that we're keeping our goals, we're keeping our dreams a secret because we're not telling it to the right people. The people you have in your circle does not have a vision as big as yours. Therefore, they laugh at your vision only because they are a limited thinker. That's what they are. That's why I say you have to be careful of who you tell your dreams to, only because you have not told it to the right person, only because you do not have the circle defined in the right way. If you're the smartest person in the room, then that means you're really the biggest dummy in the room. Excuse me. If you're not the smartest person, let me say that right. If you're not the smartest person in the room, that means you're the biggest dummy in the room. Just saying. Or maybe I said that the wrong way. Oh, Lord, help me. But I'm saying you should have people smarter than you in the room. I think I said it right the first time. Here you go. You should have people smarter than you in the room so you can learn from them. If you're the smartest person in the room, you're really the dumbest person, because who are you going to learn from, to say the least? Who are you going to learn from? And Joseph had those dreams. He was the smartest person in his room, and that's why they really were not blessed with his statement by saying that he would be ruler and that they would be bowing down to them. They're bowing down to him, okay? And we don't want to tell others our dreams, but I think we need to change that and stop being stingy with our dreams, because there's somebody that you know that can really be able to help you. You never know who has what type of assets, who has what type of mindset that can get your dream to become a reality. All right. So Joseph told his brothers about his dreams. They got so mad that they really wanted to kill him. But his brother Reuben had told them and say, hey, let's just throw him in this cistern, which is pretty much just a well. They threw him in the well. Eventually, they sold him to Potiphar. And Potiphar is the captain of Pharaoh's guard, right? He's the captain of Pharaoh's guard in Egypt. So they sold him to Potiphar. And at this point, we're going to get into Genesis 39, where it talks about the fact that the Lord was with Joseph, right? He was sold as a slave, bare minimum. He was at bare bottom right now as a slave, but they sold him as a slave. But Genesis 39:2 says the Lord was with Joseph so that he prospered, okay? Even though he was a slave, the Lord was with him. I'd rather have him and not need him than to need him and to not have him. I'm just going to say it like that. I'd rather have the Lord and not need him than to need him and not have him. Joseph had the Lord with him on his side. Therefore, slavery didn't feel like slavery. And see, when we have God on our side, it'll be the same thing. God is always going through it with us, so we're never alone. We just got to sometimes pick up and dial that phone, dial his number so we can communicate with him. Check in with him. Check in with God and see, okay, God, I know I'm not in this alone. Can you please give me some guidance and help redirect my steps? Because he directs the steps of the righteous one, doesn't he? Okay, that's what 39:2 says. And when his master had saw that the Lord was with Joseph and that the Lord gave him success in all that he did, Joseph leveled up. He found favor in the eyes of Potiphar and became his attendant. He went from slave to attendant real quick because he had God by his side. God was faithful to him. And shout out to BCV for tuning in. I appreciate that. What up, Doe? What up? Salute. Seriously, though, God was on his side, and that's why Joseph prospered. Okay? That's the reality of it. And he leveled up real quick from slave, okay, to attendant. And then let's talk about Joseph and Potiphar's wife, because as soon as you get a level up, like new level presents a new devil, as we know. Heard it from Denzel Washington. I know other people may have said it, but I'm saying it here today. A new level presents a new devil. Joseph just got leveled up from slave to attendant, right? And at that moment, that is when he is presented with a challenge, who is Potiphar's wife. Potiphar's wife looking at Joseph like, oh, he fine, right? All this stuff. He looks like a nice guy. I got my husband, but I'm not content with him. I'm willing to commit adultery all because Joseph is being leveled up. Joseph is that guy that I want. So that's when Potiphar's wife presents an opportunity to Joseph to say, hey, come sleep with me. Joseph said, no, I'm in charge of everything that Potiphar has given me except for you. I'm not going to do that. That's when she took his cloak. He ended up running off because she was trying to set him up. And she had success at doing that, but only temporary success. Because realize, as soon as you go to that new level, it's going to be something that you're going to have to get on top of, hover around, or block yourself from, because It's just how it works. God is not going to give you more than you can bear, right? God isn't going to give you more than you can bear. That's the reality of it. And I know that in James, the book of James talks about that. It's like, count it all joy when you have gone through these challenges, because you're building up that perseverance that Joseph had. And I'm going to continue this story so you can see how he had perseverance, right? Just because Potiphar's wife had to lie on Joseph because she wanted him so bad, this is when, at this moment, Joseph's master took him and put him in prison. He just came from prison, just leveled up for a quick second, got a challenge, failed that challenge because of her lies. And he was put back into prison, the place where the king's prisoners were confined. That's Genesis 39:20, right? And while Joseph was in prison, hey, realize the Lord was with him. That's what verse 21 says. The Lord was with him. He showed him kindness and granted him favor in the eyes of the prison warden. Yeah, just like that, honey. Potiphar's wife really thought she had something going for herself, but she didn't realize that there was someone higher than her that was watching over Joseph that entire time. And see, a lot of people have been set up that way. Women lying on them, men lying on them, and reputation gets ruined. I've talked about that before. It takes years to build up a reputation. It takes a second to lose it and a whole lifetime to build it back up again. But thank God that he was with Joseph this entire time. And then let's talk about Genesis 40, right? Genesis 40 talks about something. Let me get into these comments real quick. Mr. Bobby writes that I can actually catch her live this week off from school. Congrats. I'm glad to hear that. Yes, this is a Bible study because it's like I will sprinkle in like practical. I'm telling you the practical while I'm giving you the biblical. And that's just how it's going to be, because we really got to change the lives. And that's the only way it can happen is through the word. I'm just going to tell you. That's just how it is. So shout out to everybody being here. Let's get this continued. All right. Genesis 40. We have reached chapter 40, which says that there was a cupbearer and there was a baker. And these were Pharaoh's officials. Pharaoh ended up getting mad at the cupbearer and the baker. And then from that moment on, that is when they were imprisoned with Joseph. They were in prison with Joseph. They both had dreams. The cupbearer had a dream. The baker had a dream. And Joseph was the person who interpreted, but not directly, because Joseph went to God and God gave him the interpretation that he needed to be able to give that back to the cupbearer and to the baker. From that moment on, it was told that the baker would be impaled. Okay, that was his consequence from his dream. Okay, because the birds were going to be eating out, the nest on top of his head. That was the interpretation of his dream. The cupbearer was still alive. The cupbearer's position would be restored again, but the baker would be put to death. Joseph told the cupbearer, hey, when you get out of prison, please don't forget about me. How many times have you told the people that you know that are in your inner circle, hey, when you get to this job and you like this job, don't forget about me because I need a job. Look out for me. And you looking out for them more than they looking out for you. They're not meant to be in your circle. Do not associate with people who are not going to congratulate you when you have success and who are not going to pray for you when you need prayer. Like, it's about the peaks and the valleys for me. I can't have a support. I'm just going to keep it real. The whole support or nothing at all, because I need you down in the trenches with me, and I need you on that victory stage with me as well when I win the final prize. Just saying. That's what we need. We need consistent friends, and the only way we can get consistency is when we're consistent ourselves. But look, the cupbearer don't forgot about Joseph. Joseph's still in prison while everybody else is having a good old time out of prison. The cupbearer, obviously forgot about him. But in Genesis 41, this is when Pharaoh actually has some dreams that he needs interpreted. And that's when the cupbearer actually remembers remembers Joseph at that point in time. He remembers Joseph and the fact that, hey, Joseph interpreted my dream. So Pharaoh, go ahead to Joseph real quick and see if he can interpret your dream as well. That's when Pharaoh went to him and he had these dreams talking about, skinny cows were eating the fat cows. And you had the bigger grains. I remember for sure that there was the skinny cows eating the fat cows. And there was another dream as well. So it was just kind of total backwards logic there, right? And Joseph was able to interpret those dreams as well. And he warned Pharaoh that there was an upcoming famine. So these next 7 years are critical for you to make sure to save up, store up all the grains, all the resources you have for these next 7 years, because the following 7 years are going to be detrimental if you do not have things in your storehouse. That was the warning that Joseph gave him. And Pharaoh saw that, hey, Joseph, he gave me these interpretations. It sounds legit. Nobody else has been able to do it like him. At that point, let me give him another position. So that's when Joseph leveled up again. Okay, he was like Pharaoh's right hand man. That's what happens. Look, he came from prisoner to attendant to prisoner. Now he leveled up like right hand man with right hand man with Pharaoh. That's how it goes sometimes. Yes, it was all a dream. I used to read Word Up magazine. Yes, okay, that's how it is, because we gotta use these, like some of these verses, that's what I'm saying, some of these verses, some of the rap verses, lyrics that we hear, preach the truth. Like it was all a dream, but now it's a reality. All because you kept the faith. All because you got out of that mentality. Because I'm telling you, mentality is the reason that we're not where we're at right now, because resources are plentiful. We can hold on to that victim card, try to redeem it for something greater, but you just need to know that the mentality is the reason we're stagnant. And I know, like, most of us, we are on pause right now, but we really just need to persevere. Keep going, because there is something at the end of that tunnel, but you got to have that faith. Faith plus works. James 2:26 says that faith without works is dead. So you can have the faith, Lord, please bring me this man. Lord, please give me this job. Lord, please bless me with this, bless me with that. But what are you doing behind the scenes to prepare for that? If you're not blessed with the small that you have, then you're not going to be blessed with the big. That's it. Appreciate the little that you do have, because until you do that, God is not going to level you up. Joseph appreciated himself being a slave. He took advantage of the opportunity to help those when he was in prison, to interpret the dreams of those who asked him to. He didn't just say, oh no, I'm not going to do nothing for y'all because I'm a slave right now. No, he was working while he was a slave, mentally and physically, right? He was working while he was a slave in the prisons. He was enslaved per se, but at the end of the day, we are in a slave mentality where we got the resources. We know we're capable of doing whatever we can, but we say, because I'm not ready. As soon as you say I'm not anything, you're not going to do it. But you have to change the words. I will, I can, I'm able to. It's a mindset shift that is keeping our people back. Just saying. So Joseph leveled up. And then here's Genesis 42. It goes on to Genesis 47, but this is the last part I'm going to say right here, where Genesis 42, things come back full circle. Because remember his brothers who sold him to the Egyptians? Those same brothers who sold him to the Egyptians had to come back years later for some grains, because that famine happened that Joseph had said would happen. Look at that. The same folks that threw me in the well is coming back to get some food, right? And Joseph wasn't like, well, you know, y'all treated me wrong, because they didn't even recognize Joseph. Joseph leveled up. Joseph was looking like a whole prince in Egypt. And they come and say, oh, sir, they bowing down to him just like the dream said that they would. Remember they called him a little dreamer, but look at him fulfilling his dreams, all because he had God on his side and he didn't think that that dream was too small for him to make a reality. So it all comes back full circle. The same folks that will throw you in the well and say, you know, oh well, are the same ones that's got to come to you one day asking you for help, asking you for forgiveness, all because they mistreated you. They know they were in the wrong. But because of that envy that they had, they missed out on their blessings, and now they got to come to you. Isn't that the worst thing in the world? I've seen that. Like, let me just tell you, one time, let me just give y'all a little quick story about me. I used to be bullied in high school about the clothes. I used to wear old grandma clothes, this, and that. The same ones that was talking about my clothes in high school were the same ones congratulating me when Snoop Dogg wore my clothes on his stage when he was at the concert here in Detroit. Back in 2016. Yes, that's just a fun fact. And I have to get more into that another day. But I'm just letting y'all know I have a clothing line. So that's what y'all don't know, but y'all will know. Y'all find that out. But I'm just letting you know, the same ones that was bullying me way back when are the same ones that's congratulating me. Oh, wow, Snoop wore your clothes. Da-da-da-da-da. Yeah, appreciate me at my lowest. And you can continue to ride with me at my highest. But if you disrespected me at my lowest, then I don't have room for you when I elevate. Because you still on the same level. Be a hater over there. Just saying. Look, he's like, say what now? So yeah, this is before y'all knew me. I have a clothing line, Detroit Luxury Clothing. Make sure y'all check that out. But yes, on a serious note, the same haters will congratulate me later. And they'll do the same for you too. All because they didn't want to ride with you to see you put in all that work. They couldn't wait for all that. They couldn't wait for all that. They just wanted to see the outcome. Like, we've seen so many movies where parents come back on the scene as soon as a child does good, right? I'm here for the graduation, but I wasn't here when you were struggling with calculus. I wasn't here when you were struggling with your English lessons. I wasn't here to pay for your tutoring to make sure that you understood the basic concepts. But I'll be here for the graduation, though. And don't let them come back to your graduation or trying to reap a benefit. No. Get away from the evildoers. Didn't know you. Okay? That's what God gonna say too to some of these folks, to say the least. Successful Melanated Dusty, thank you for being here. He said, we have to be careful of who we bury. Yes, especially those that have the heart of Joseph. Jarena says, amen, we have to be a good steward over what we already have, and the Lord is faithful to bring the increase. But we are waiting for the increase, but we didn't do nothing to deserve it. So you're gonna be waiting forever instead of being productive. It's the difference between being busy and being productive. And your enemies become your footstool. Yes, they will, bowing right down to you. And I appreciate that. Seriously, like I've come a long way. Just on a reflection tip. When I first started this year on my channel, I had like 100 and something subscribers. Had about 2 or 3 people watching my live. Now I've been able to times 10 that right now. 20 people watching at the moment. And thank y'all to those who are watching, who've been consistent with me, because you like something I've said. Maybe something's resonated with you, but you didn't have to be here right now. I know everybody has something to do, myself included, but I'm here because I'm saying, oh, sometimes I don't want to do an episode. Sometimes I don't feel like I have enough content to produce a quality episode, but I say, no, God, please, or allow me to decrease so that you can increase in me, because sometimes I can't get the words out and I'm just letting him flow whatever he wants to out of me. That's it. So I'm just thankful for this year. Definitely thank you to all the new subscribers. Thank you for being a part of the fam, because I love the consistency. I appreciate that. Y'all can be doing anything, like I said right now. And shout out to Aunt Tracy again. It will continue to grow. See, that's my goal. Thank you so much. My goal is just to be able to change the mindset. Like, I'm not all about the numbers. I'm hoping that I can get to 1,000 subscribers soon in these next few months. I'm praying on that. And nonetheless, I just appreciate all y'all support. Coach Harry, thank you so much for being here. Make sure y'all check out his YouTube channel as well. Great content to really help men out who are considered introverts in the dating market. But Successful Melanated Dusty said, truthfully, our community seems to gravitate to negativity and dysfunction. Yes, they do. They don't want to hear nothing positive. They don't hear nothing positive. That's what's bothersome, because I try to talk about things that we're doing wrong in our community. Yes, but I'm trying to figure out the solution. That's what we got to figure out too. It's about the mindset though. That's the first thing we can change, because think about this. A book, an umbrella, and a mind, when they're all open, they can do unimaginable things. A book, an umbrella, and a mind, when they're all open, they can do unimaginable things. But until they're open, nothing's going to change. We have to live with an open mindset. We have to. And thank you so much, Chavis. See, I can't wait for that moment too, for the super chats. People, ask me about cash apps and whatnot. I don't have all that right now. I'm just waiting for the right time. I'm just going to keep persevering, and we're going to see the benefits come at that point. But until then, I appreciate y'all so much. This has been a great year, y'all. 2022 has been a blessing to me. I hope it has been for y'all as well. I know everybody's been going through different things here, especially holiday seasons and whatnot, but I want y'all to keep the faith. I want y'all to continue to persevere. I want y'all to get those goals together. And what y'all can do, I want Mona, before this episode ends, Mona, put the link to your upcoming episode or just your channel in the chat, because Mona's having an episode coming up this week talking about goals over resolutions. We are so tired of people talking about resolutions, because a big percentage of those resolutions end up turning into failures, all because we don't have a plan behind them. And shout out to It's Party Line for tuning in. He said, need to be with me shooting in the gym. Hey man, they need to be. You wasn't with me shooting in the gym, so you cannot attend this game. You cannot see me get that championship prize. Just saying. But Mona has an episode coming up this week on goals over resolutions. Let's start the new year off right. And it don't have to start on January 1st. Literally, it can start today. Write those goals down. Don't create so many goals that you know you won't be able to accomplish them. It's all about baby steps. I'm doing a 12-week year thing where every 12 weeks, I'm aligning myself with new goals, 3 to 4 goals every 12 weeks. Because sometimes we set those goals on January 1st and don't revisit them again until December 31st. That's when you know it's too late. But I want Mona to put that link in the chat. I think she just did. So we're going to wait for that to pop up, y'all. Goals over resolutions. Catch Mona live. Make sure y'all hit that link. Make sure y'all like the video if you haven't already. Thank y'all so much for the support. I appreciate y'all as always. And until next time, I'll be back next year, God willing. Happy New Year. Happy New Year. Happy New Year. And let's accomplish some more goals. Let's change our mindset. Let's be better than those who are a part of our community. Let's be that example that other people can look at and say, oh, they got it going on. That's what we want to be like. One step at a time. So until next time, y'all, stay blessed. Happy New Year, and I'll be seeing y'all soon. Take care.